I think it's all over. I think the Electoral College has spoken. I think the Biden corruption has not totally been brought to fruition, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the Electoral College. And I don't think the Supreme Court is going to move in to do anything. And I think we're going to see a President Biden, and I also think we'll be seeing a President Kamala Harris not too long after the inauguration of President Biden. With all his talent and the ability to raise money and draw large crowds, the president still lives in an alternate reality. He really does. People say, well, he lies about this, that, and the other. But no, he isn't lying. To him, that's the truth. He had the biggest crowd on Inauguration Day. He had more people than ever. He was the most popular people. He saved NBC. But with The Apprentice, you go down the line of things that really aren't true. And, people kept pointing to them. But because they loved him so much and he was so strong for the evangelicals were with him all the way. But there was something about him that was good, that God placed him in that office for the time. He's done a marvelous job for the economy. But at the same time, he is very erratic, and he's fired people, and he's fought people, and he's insulted people, and it keeps going down the line. So it's a mixed bag. And I think it would be well to say, you've had your day, and it's time to move on.
Years ago, I taught a class, business ethics, for an evangelical university. And in that class, I assigned a book, a biography of Steve Jobs. And the reason I assigned that is because Steve Jobs is an incredibly successful, back then he was just restarting the Apple computer and getting it to become a household name. It hadn't quite yet gotten to that point, but it was getting there. And there was a biography about him that was perfect for what I wanted to get across in business ethics. Here's a man who was able to become incredibly successful in the area of business, and yet in the area of friends, loved ones, in the areas of some of the things that he did, I think he was a failure. And he was able to admit that in years to come. But it was a good example of the struggle that we have in business ethics. Being ethical in a business and helping that business to succeed. Now, the one thing Steve Jobs had was something that even early on in his career, people saw, and he saw. And it's something that they called the reality distortion field. And what the reality distortion field was, it's a term taken from Star Trek, but it had to do with Steve Jobs' ability to create his own universe. He would say something that everybody says, that can't be done. And I mean everybody. Any expert would say, you can't do that. Either timeline, you can't do it in that amount of time, or you can't do it because we don't have the ability to do something like that. But Steve Jobs, in his reality distortion view, would be able to pull it off and convince others, at least as long as they're in his presence, convince others he was right, he could do it. But as soon as they left, they thought, I just gave into that stupid distortion field. All right. When President Trump stepped into office and I began looking into a little bit, hearing stuff on the news, I realized right away he has a reality distortion field. He creates worlds out of his own head and says that's what's going to happen, and he goes for it, and he doesn't give up. This has troubled many, and others have thought this is brilliant and wonderful. I think what we're dealing with right now with him refusing to step out of the White House is a reality distortion field. As Pat Robertson admits, he lies, but he believes those lies. He creates his own universe and he lives it. He's going to push it, and that's the way it is. And he will go until he dies, or whatever. And people are afraid. What's he going to do? Now, I find a difference between Steve Jobs and our president. And I will say I had a lot of admiration for Steve Jobs despite his shortcomings. One of the things that I really admired is he was able to, through deep falls and deep mistakes, admit he had made mistakes. And actually, in front of large crowds, admit that he was going through a learning process. I have some respect, actually a lot of admiration for Steve Jobs. I won't say the same thing about a president. I can't. All right. Have a good one. We'll see y'all later. This is Ted. Have a good day.